I'm Maevius Lynn. I'm a real-life practicing occultist as well as an artist. Here in my YouTube channel, I discuss Western esotericism as well as ceremonial magic, and of course my experiences with the occult. Today I'll be discussing a new video game trailer that just dropped called Exit Veil and sharing my personal thoughts on it. What better as someone who both loves video games and the occult? I think it'll be really cool to see some things I love and hold dear to my heart in a video game format. I have a few quick side notes I want to make here. First, it's that occultists tend to be relegated to history books or scary movies, but the truth is, we're real-life people living real lives. And as a practicing occultist myself, some of these very old, beautiful traditions live on in me and other practicing occultists. I think for anyone who's interested in deep, personal, and profound transformation, the occult path has a lot to offer. I think that's really cool and a beautiful thing. So, I have another note I also want to make, and it's that Cherrymochi asked me to take a look at this game, but all of the views and thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are my own, and I don't have any insider information. This is just all of my thoughts and me reacting to it sort of freely.
I did what you wanted.
Such a cool opening so far. It's eerie yet so intriguing. The first thing I noticed was, or rather, the first thing that caught my eye was the spheres over the face. I think those actually might be planets orbiting the sun, which for me sort of means like astrology is going to be a part of this game. Additionally, what came to mind was this concept, philosophical concept called music of the spheres, which is where the planetary bodies and their motion and movements form a type of music. So that could be interesting.
I wore the veil.
Ooh, look at her veil! So I totally noticed that on the veil. It appears, although it's hard to see, it totally appears to be a Solomonic summoning triangle on her veil, which sort of confuses me a little bit, but it also intrigues me because typically in ceremonial magic, that's the place where the magician or practitioner summons a spirit or entity to visible appearance. So you can kind of envision this giant setup in a big room, and then on one end you have this triangle, and then within that triangle, that's where the spirit or entity would make the appearance. Now, what that actually means to someone who's a practitioner could mean a lot of different things. Of course, open to interpretation. This could be, some people believe it to be an actual literal spirit or entity, or other people view it as just simply a manifestation of a part of their subconscious or conscious mind. So you often hear people summoning, a demon to visible appearance or something like that, and like what that means to the practitioner might be very different on the person. So I don't know, maybe she's a demon because she's wearing the triangles on her veil. That's a really interesting concept. I can't wait to see what's going on with that.
I fought my way here for you.
So that appears to be a very shiny and chrome Kabbalistic tree of life, zoomed in on Tiferet. So what is the Kabbalistic tree of life? It's a multifaceted model, and I think if there's one rabbit hole you go down as a result of this video, make the tree of life that rabbit hole. So it stands for a lot of different things. It's essentially a map of all universal possibilities. It represents the process of creation. It's a map of the mind of God. It's a map of the structure and function of the human mind. And it also maps out the way of the return which unifies the human mind as well as the soul with their divine source. So on that particular map, we see a zoom in of Tifereth, which stands for beauty and imagination. If you want to know more about Tifereth, bust out your correspondences book. I see myself returning to this book a whole bunch, as well as other ceremonial magicians. And so let's just take a peek. Okay, so Tifereth corresponds obviously to number 6, and as correspondences on the Queen color scale are yellow or gold. Emperor color scale is rich salmon. Empress is gold. It also corresponds to Ra as well as Jesus. So you can really think a lot about that. So I wonder, in that context, what this video game is talking about, and if those colors mean anything as well. Like maybe that shiny chrome color is trying to tell us something about where we are on the Tree of Life as a character and how we're viewing our path up or down the Tree of Life depending on what we're doing. So I don't know. It's really curious.
All I find is you're just as lost as the rest.
So those two statues are doing something called AA grade signs, and what that means requires a little bit of an explanation, but it's really cool. So the place we should start with that is, of course, a very famous occultist from the Victorian era by the name of Aleister Crowley. He is quite controversial, but he is a magician and an occultist, as well as a rock climber, a poet, a lot of other things. But this gentleman was extremely influential, and during his lifetime, he developed a teaching curriculum for his flavor of occultism, as well as sort of developed a lot of other organizations and systems out there, but we're talking about the AA, so that's essentially his system that teaches something called Thelema, which is a type of Western ceremonial magic. It's a philosophy, it's a religion, and as well as a system of mysticism. So within that teaching system by Aleister Crowley, there's a few grade signs that you learn, and you can use these outside of the AA. It's not specified as like an AA only thing. And when I say AA, I don't mean Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean this specific system of learning, right, developed by Aleister Crowley. So the first one we see is actually Shu. It's an air sign, so people can make it like this. I've seen it made, or you can hold your arms at 90-degree angles like that. And Shu is a really beautiful sign. It symbolizes holding up the heavens, and we most commonly see this sign being made for Thelemites when they're performing a ritual called Liber Resh, which is performed 4 times a day at the 4 stations of the sun. But of course, Shu is only made when the sun is setting. The other one you see is AA grade sign Veer. Stands for man, and basically to do that one, you make the horns of a bull. You take your fist and you put them at your temple, and you have your bull horns. And that one is most commonly used in a banishing ritual done called the Star Ruby. So how cool is that? I really like seeing the AA grade signs in a video game. I've never seen that before. There appears to be a lot going on with this particular symbol. My first take at looking at it is that it represents maybe the 12 signs of the zodiac as well as some other things. So first of all, it's really beautiful. I love how detailed and shiny and chrome everything is. That's really cool. But when I looked at it, I saw on the wings, I saw 2 sets of fish. I mean, that just might be totally me projecting onto it, but I think that represents Pisces. And then you see 2 sets of horns in the middle. I think this one could be Taurus, and then we have Capricorn. I don't know, I think maybe the other zodiac are hidden in there and I just didn't get it. But additionally, there was also a staff with the symbol of Mercury at the top I saw, and then this is all overlaid on a hexagram on the background. So wow, there is so much going on here, and I bet I just even missed like half of it.
Lost? No. Let me show you our way home.
The first thing that really jumps out at me in this particular shot is, of course, in the top middle of the screen, that really bright solar eclipse. Now, solar eclipses, or eclipses in general, have a lot of different meanings across cultures, but they're typically associated with chaotic energy or a chaotic time, as well as malefic energy. Now, what I also found interesting about this particular room was on each side of the room, you're sort of flanked by these two statues, and I could be totally off base here, but to me, those sort of looks like sphinxes. Like, maybe they're an artistic interpretation of a sphinx and the two sphinxes, which, if that's the case, that's really interesting, because they're often associated with solar energy, which ties into the eclipse, which makes me think of sphinxes. But the occultist who talked a lot about sphinxes and had a lot to say was Eliphas Levi, who was this really cool dude from the 1800s, and he talked a lot about them, but specifically he mentioned the 4 powers of the sphinxes, which is to know, to dare, to will, and to keep silence. So, interestingly enough, of course, one of the huge influences on the dude we just talked about earlier, Aleister Crowley, was this gentleman, Eliphas Levi. So if you have a chance to look up some very famous, very influential occultists, make sure you put Eliphas Levi on your list. So yeah, cool shot. So, obviously those are tarot cards. Most people know what tarot cards are. They're essentially a tool to use for divination. You can ask the cards for additional guidance. You can also use the cards in a lot of occult workings. But the thing most people don't realize is actually there's different systems of tarot card decks. And this one, and we'll talk more about this later, but this one appears to be a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, with some references to the Thoth deck system, although this is not, in my opinion, which we'll talk more about later, it's not a Thoth deck. So this brings us back to this general theme. This is the Thoth deck, and in this deck we see the Hanged Man has this really distinct downward V shape, so that to me is a reference to the Thoth deck system, which of course was developed again by famous occultist Aleister Crowley in combination with Frida Lady Harris, who did the art and was really the driving force behind this tarot project. What makes this particular deck cool, the Thoth deck system, you could write a whole essay on this, but essentially it's a deck in line with the current Aeon as laid out by this occultist Aleister Crowley and his reception of a divinely inspired text called the Book of the Law. So that's what this is all about, and this deck has different correspondences, different meanings, as well as obviously what we just demonstrated, the positions and meaning on the cards are a little bit different compared to Rider-Waite-Smith. So it's really cool to see sort of a blended tarot deck, and wow, is it beautiful! So I think someone who's interested in getting like a blended deck would find this really interesting and really helpful, and maybe it'll give people a taste of the Thoth deck system, and maybe they will go explore that further. This appears to be the Sigillum de Ameth by super famous occultist John Dee. It's essentially a magical diagram which contains the name of God as well as his angels. And John Dee was an astrologer, astronomer, mathematician, occultist, and alchemist, and he lived around the 1600s, so it's really cool to see a lot of these historic occultists work into this game, and I really hope it inspires people to look up more about this and dive further. I think they'll be pleasantly surprised and rewarded.
こんにちは皆さん。私たちのゲーム Exit ベールをご紹介します。このゲームは
There is a lot going on in this picture, so here's what I spy with my little eye. There's a lot of Kabbalah around in the symbolism and books. Additionally, you once again see the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. That particular symbol on the desk is the AA symbol on that book on the table. In the sort of back, you see some books by Carl Jung, who is known for his work in psychology as well as magic. On the table, you also see a Diorgi. So I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, but that's essentially a Tibetan dagger. Additionally, you see a cup or chalice, as well as a pentagram disc. And all of these are classic ceremonial magic tools used in rituals.
カードやオカルト、そして癒しというテーマに着目したダークで幻想的な JRPG です。
So, as the picture pans over, I see two things that jump out to me. The first one being the butt end of what looks like a Golden Dawn fire wand, which is another one of those classic ceremonial magic tools. I also see in the background a classic, what looks like Aleister Crowley book, that black and white book. I can't quite make out which one that is, but it says Liber on it, and that's as far as I sort of got. On the note of ritualistic tools, I actually tried making a Golden Dawn fire wand once. Here's mine. It is not great. I think it's a prototype part one of my Golden Dawn fire wand, so I will try to make this again and make it look better. That one in the video looks really nice though.
このゲームの主人公は崩壊していく世界を救おうと抗うトリという若い女性です。Exit ベールは困難や障害を力ではなく癒しを使って克服していきます。
Right here we see more tarot symbolism indicating the Three of Swords. And we're seeing this tarot symbolism over and over and over again. So I'm really starting to think tarot is going to be a big important part of this game. And of course, the Three of Swords is typically associated with things like disappointment or being hurt.
徐々に謎を解明しながら不思議な世界を探索し、驚きに満ちた心を揺さぶる物語を紐解いていきます。Exit ベールとは独特な
In case we had any doubts before, this is definitely the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. As I talked about earlier in the video. And something I haven't mentioned yet, which I think will come into play in this, especially since we're seeing back and forth between tarot and the Tree of Life, is that the tarot deck can actually be mapped onto the Tree of Life in terms of the different paths and stuff like that. So you can use the tarot cards in specific path workings on the Tree of Life as well, which is a really important part of a lot of ceremonial practices.
JRPG の世界に浸る、そんなゲームです。ゲーム内で使用するビレーナタロットカードはすべて実際のタロットデッキとしても
So here's a more complete look at the tarot deck, and again, to me, it says Rider-Waite-Smith deck, with some influences from Aleister Crowley's and Lady Frida Harris's Thoth deck. So why am I saying this isn't a Thoth deck? Well, in this case, the card is strength and not lust, Whereas in the Thoth deck system, it's the Lust card. Another one, of course, here is it's showing a Judgment card and not Adjustment. So if it was the Thoth deck, it would have an Adjustment card instead. But yeah, a really cool combination of tarot cards and tarot card systems here.
いただけます。イグジット・ベイルの世界に浸りたい方、タロットカードのコレクターやタロットに興味のある方にはぴったりです。このデッキを使ってタロットの世界を堪能してみませんか？前作東京ダークの際もキックスターターのコミュニティと素晴らしいゲームを作りました。前作のバッカーの皆さんからまたサポートしていただけるように頑張ります。今回初めてチェリーモチに興味を持ってくださった皆さん、はじめまして。
As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown. I would love to hear your thoughts below in the comments. Please tell me what you think. And if you notice anything else, I think there was a few more things I noticed but sort of left out. So let me know what you find. And if you want more information about this game and its trailer, I'll add information below in the description. So thanks for watching, everyone. I am the primal will to good, and so are you.